1950s Europe. A young police officer is sitting on the corner of a block when a young woman suddenly bumps into him. The officer notices that the young woman is blind, carrying around a stick to make sure she doesn't bump into anything. Not that it's doing much good. The woman says she is looking for a job but has been having little luck. The officer replies that they have an open position for a telephone operator at the police precinct, so the woman agrees. The officer extends his arm to help guide her there in exchange. This is the beginning of Veil, a manga that began as a handful of drawings posted on Twitter by Ikumi Fukuda. Over the years, Fukuda's drawings gained notable popularity, so much so that she was able to turn it into a full series where it sits now. Veil has one of the most unique art styles of any manga that I have ever read. For starters, it uses warm, vibrant colors to differentiate its characters from the beautiful backgrounds. So much is packed into a single panel that it can be genuinely overwhelming. Not just in terms of detail, but by the way Fukuda is able to depict human emotion with the smallest possible intricacies. I also really love how the panel boxes are never straight or connected, as if this was just some drawing on a napkin somebody left behind at a cafe. I feel like napkin drawing also helps to describe how bite-sized and short the chapters are, yet they feel packed to the brim with storytelling, an amazing feat considering Veil only has two characters, Alexander and Emma. Though it's not like we need more since the entire series is just depicting little moments in their romantic relationship. One chapter could just be 2 pages of them walking home together, 7 pages of them sitting in their apartment having a conversation, or other things that they do in their day-to-day life. That's it, and that's all I ever wanted to be. If I could pick a series to run forever, it would be Veil, because I could genuinely read it forever. Hopefully you will be able to as well. 36 high school students are trapped in a school. It's not because their teachers won't let them out, it's not because the doors are locked, it's because there's nowhere else to go. Outside is just pitch black nothingness. The students are left drifting, with no way back or no way forward, until one takes a leap of faith into the darkness to discover thousands of other worlds and dimensions. These this worlds, as they call them, all have their own unique set of rules that the students must figure out in order to solve the mystery of why they ended up here in the first place and how they can get home. This is the premise of Sonny Boy, one of the most thought-provoking anime I've ever watched due to how gorgeous it is to look at. Each and every this world has its own unique style, making the entire series a non-stop visual feast. Yet at the same time, no matter how close anything looks to our world, Sonny Boy constantly reminds you that it isn't, with each and every location having a strange, liminal feel to them, as if everything and everyone just abandoned these places, sent them out to drift and be forgotten. This eerie feeling constantly keeps you on your toes, as you have no idea what could happen next or what the group could find. Pair this with amazing character writing, and you have a story about what it's like being cast out into the real world, trying to understand its thousands of cruel rules, and how in that confusion we cling on to other people, sometimes bringing them with us to amazing new places, or dragging them down to our lowest lows. Sonny Boy is only 12 episodes long, yet those 12 episodes are more meaningful than any other anime I've watched in a long time. If you haven't already seen it, just do yourself a favor. Trust me, you won't want to stop if you do. Despite its age, Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust is still a genuine contender for the best looking anime movie of all time. Released in the year 2000, this movie is as if the animators were able to turn the gothic Victorian style into a concentrated liquid and carefully injected every single shot with it. The architecture and set pieces are pushed past their creative limits in Bloodlust in so many interesting ways. From massive Castlevania style megastructures to Bloodborne style space stations, Bloodlust has everything and more. It is impossible to get bored watching this movie, as there is not a single cut that isn't the coolest thing you've ever seen in your life. Of course, this complements one of the coolest main characters in all of anime, D, the immortal half-human, half-vampire son of Dracula. He spends his days hunting down any and all vampires with his wide array of tools, powers, and weapons. This time he's after a young girl who has strangely chosen to travel to a noble vampire to a faraway, mysterious land. I would highly recommend watching this movie not because of just how great it is, but because it's an amazing introduction to the wider Vampire Hunter D franchise as a whole. which includes another great movie from 1985, the incredible manga adaptation, and of course, the novels. This might seem like a lot, but if you take the time, you will find one of the most compelling fantasy worlds in all of media. Anything Vampire Hunter D related has never failed to leave me absolutely stunned as they slowly sink further and further down the rabbit hole that this series offers. A rabbit hole I hope never ends. Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust is pretty accessible nowadays, as let's just say you won't have to go far from YouTube to find it. Trust me, you won't regret it. Have you ever been out really late at night? When it feels like there's nothing around for miles but the soft breeze of the wind or the illuminated sidewalks. If you're lucky enough, you can look up at the night sky and have the stars keep you company. The nighttime has always been the most lonely yet freeing time of day. It feels as if you could walk 100 miles in the cool weather without ever seeing another person. This is what it feels like to watch Call of the Night, a series about Ko Yamari, a high schooler who suffers from severe insomnia. So when he can't sleep at night, he ventures out into the lonely streets of Japan. What I love about the series is how it doesn't depict night as just some desaturated version of the day. Instead, it illuminates the world with hundreds of beautiful lights and colors to differentiate it. With an amazing soundtrack, the series creates this strange sense of comfort, like you could just sit there and watch it forever. I will admit Call of the Night doesn't have the deepest characters with the best world building, but that doesn't stop it from being one of the most enjoyable anime I've watched in a long time. If you end up liking the series, you can read ahead in the just as excellent manga, which has its own unique way of pulling you in. I'm still not over the fact that the manga is ending soon, so there's no better time to catch up than now. But if you don't feel like doing that, there is one season of the anime out thus far, and it only clocks in at around 13 episodes. I know this is one of, if not the most well-known title in this video, but there still hasn't been an announcement for a second season, so if I can get more people to watch the series to help season 2 happen, it'll have been worth it. Miko Inoue is your average young adult and disgruntled office worker. She moved away from the countryside years ago, hoping to make a life in the big city of Tokyo. Currently her boyfriend is living with her in their small apartment to help pay the rent. And that's it. That's the premise of Solanin, a short 29-chapter series by Inyo Asano. There's nothing remarkable about Solanin. There's no huge twist where Miko decides to suddenly chase her dreams or oust some evil crime organization. Instead, Solanin strikes at the core of being an adult, and having to make some of the toughest decisions on your own. Decisions that don't have a clear right or wrong answer. Decisions that affect you for the rest of your life. Luckily, Miko isn't alone, as she has a lovable cast of characters to support her, helping her to push forward so they can all find a true happy ending together. There's not much more I can say about this one for the sake of spoilers, but just give it a read. Solanin's short, and you can find it on the Viz Media app. Trust me, it's not an experience you'll forget anytime soon. In Japan during the 1960s, Western jazz music had found a massive following, influenced heavily by musicians such as Miles Davis and Bobby Timmons. Directed by the legendary Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo creator Shinichiro Watanabe, with a score by the legendary composer of Cowboy Bebop, Yoko Kanno, Kids on the Slope is an amazing coming-of-age story. It centers around Kaoru Nishima, a high schooler who's not very good at making friends. Though he begins to break out of his shell as he begins to discover his love of playing jazz, connecting with other people who feel the same way. Kids on the Slope follows Kaoru throughout his entire high school life and the ever-evolving relationships that he has with his friends, carefully represented in the music that he plays. My favorite thing about Kids on the Slope is how you become just as attached to the music as the characters, since you see them slowly practice and get better at not just playing music, but growing as people, culminating in some amazing musical numbers full of symbolism. In fact, you become just as attached to the songs to the point where you feel like you could almost play them yourself. You technically could if you watch this anime enough, since Kids on the Slope makes excellent use of 3D animation to sync up the music to the instruments, meaning that every single time a character plays a song, that animation perfectly represents what their fingers would be doing as if they were actually playing in real life. Kids on the Slope is something for everyone to love, plus it's pretty short, only clocking in at 12 episodes, so I recommend everyone at least give it a shot. On one warm day, Yoshiki and Hikaru are making their way back home from school when they stop at the convenience store to get their daily fill of ice cream. As the mesquite bugs trill around them, the two carry on their conversation about how to pronounce the word salmon and how Hikaru was missing for 7 whole days over summer break. Hikaru tells Yoshiki for the 100th time that he still doesn't remember anything about that week due to his amnesia. The two continue chatting until Yoshiki says, "Hey, can I ask you something a little strange?" "What, you want to profess your undying love?" Hikaru jokes. "Not that, well, actually this has been going on for some time now. You know, this has been on my mind ever since you went missing and showed back up. You really are different from Hikaru." Hikaru stares back in silence before his face begins to...
My imitation was supposed to be perfect.
In that week Hikaru was missing, he died. What was found wasn't Hikaru, just something that looked like him. Something not human. The summer Hikaru died is one of the most creative manga I've ever read, harnessing that ever so uncanny feeling of when something looks like a human, but is ever so slightly off that it sends a chill down your spine. Like when that coat hanging in the corner of your room starts to look like a figure just standing there, observing you. That's what it feels like to read this manga. The entire series builds an uneasy tension as the monster that imitates Hikaru will just so slightly break character just to quickly correct itself, always keeping you on the edge of your seat in eager anticipation of what could happen next. Though it would be unfair to call The Summer Hikaru Died a straight-up horror manga because it is so much more, being a study piece on what exactly it means to be human. And if maybe the term monster only exists because of our preconceived notions of what isn't human, using deep emotional character moments to always keep you indecisive. The Summer Hikaru Died is short, with only a handful of chapters out right now, but still very, very worth reading. So give it a shot if you're into this sort of thing. I know that I already have 2 vampire-related items in this video, but you'll have to excuse one more, because this is the ultimate vampire story. The story of Count Dracula. DRCL, or Dracula Midnight Children, is an alternate take on the original Bram Stoker Dracula novel, borrowing all the same characters and story beats, but making enough changes to where I wouldn't call it a straight-up adaptation. Though the changes that are made are excellent ones in my opinion, and necessary to get across the lesser talked about themes that the original novel had. Every single panel, no matter how minor, has an overwhelming amount of detail, especially the breathtaking double-page spreads. Though good art doesn't always equate to a good manga. This series knows that, as it has some of the best paneling I've ever come across. For example, this one instance where this inanimate, murky wall stain takes the shape of a monster, effortlessly dragging your eyes across the page, giving the illusion as if it came alive on the page itself, waltzing in real time. Or like this spread, that starts your eyes on the left of this young girl dressed in an extravagant dress, holding hand in hand with another as they dance. It leads you to the mirror, where it reveals that only one of them actually appears in it. Did I mention that this series is one of the most effective horror manga that I have ever read? Not because it uses the classic monster jump scare trope. Midnight Children loves to mess with you, constantly making you dread the next page turn. Dracula Midnight Children recently got an English release by Viz Media, in a very high quality hardcover omnibus edition that I would highly recommend picking up if this interests you. I included Boys Abyss at the bottom of this list because it deals with very sensitive topics in some very not so sensitive ways. In fact, honestly, I wouldn't recommend this series to most people. I was constantly going back and forth on whether or not I should even include it in this video, though I did, because I think it is not only a very good series, I think it's one worth reading. Boys Abyss follows Reiji Kurose, who, for better or worse, seems to be the center of everyone's life. So much so that they constantly vibe for control over him, pulling him apart like a wishbone. It's not because Reiji has some supernatural powers or is special by any means. They all just want him to love them, and only them, so they can feel some meaning in life. This ranges from his childhood best friend to his own mother. The world is extremely unfair to Reiji, from a young age constantly being drowned in it. There never feels like any place he can turn to, any soul he can trust. It seems like the only escape he has is death. There is never a happy moment in Boy's Abyss, so why did I say it was worth reading? Well, that's because for the sole reason of just trying to find happiness, Reiji keeps on pushing forward. Despite all of the crap thrown at him, he sifts through it with no end in sight, just the possibility of one. It can be genuinely uplifting not to see him struggle, but to work hard for a chance at a better life. But it can be genuinely heartbreaking to see him make a wrong turn or decision that you know will end up leading him down a bad path. That's why, despite being almost 200 chapters long, Boy's Abyss flies by because you don't ever want to put it down. If you want to try the series, just say I didn't warn you.